Hello, so I did get a request to explain my UI and some of the add-ons that I'm using, so this is what I'm going to do right now with this video. The first thing I want to talk about is the fact that my chat is covered with my webcam, so obviously you're not seeing the chat. Right above the chat you have SCADA, so that's where I see all the healing meters. I typically hop between healing meters during fights and then look at my overhealing, and the overhealing is the group, as well as my damage taken from mechanics, and make sure that I can't possibly do better or worse, etc. After that, we get some basic simple ones here. So for example, I want to talk about the fact that we have Sexy Map right here. I do use Sexy Map. It just kind of hides all the buttons, makes it look a little cleaner, basically. After that, shattered unit frames. So right here, next to Sexy Map, is the one and only character profile. And right there, that's where I'm going to see my individual self as well as my targets next to it, etc., etc. I'm going to loop in some video during fights throughout this video as well, so that you can kind of see in combat and explain things in addition to that. I tend to keep my focus target, also with shattered unit frames, down here below these toolbars, so that's where my focus target is. And my focus target is almost always the person who I trust to be on the correct target. So typically speaking, that's the raid leader who's a DPS. So basically that's for my Shadow Fiend, so that my Shadow Fiend doesn't kill the wrong thing. Very important during certain fights. I use Bartender to work with all of my bars, so I tend to kind of move things around a good amount. I'm pretty happy with this layout right now. Basically what you're looking at is everything's kind of thrown over to the right, so I have all my necessary stuff that I use on a fairly regular basis. Pots, flasks, runes, res button, for the lazy ones, of course. My infamous Markimus the Gladiator, gotta love Markimus, how can you not? As well as Hearthstones, Garrison Stone, etc. And then professions. I also kind of just wedge things into the corner. Everything else is more or less hotkeyed. So let's talk about this information in the middle. So in order to kind of understand that, you're going to kind of have to understand how I play. I do not play with a keyboard. I play with a game board. So the game board that I use is the Logitech G13. And that basically gives me access to 22 actual buttons, as well as a joystick with 2 buttons next to it. So this area here is my game board. So typically, when my hand rests on my game board, I am holding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are the standard ones. 7 and 8. And then dash and equal sign. All easily within range. Okay, so those are my major healing buttons that I use. I also have Everyman hotkeyed, as well as some of my mounts, random mounts, silences, etc. So all these buttons are hotkeyed. The exception here is Shackle has a hotkey, but I can change it. It's typically my map button, and then during raids I'll switch it. My health stone is again hotkeyed here, but not currently. Right now it opens my bags. So I open my bags. And then the Shadow Word Pain is typically my tab, in case I do ever need to tab target. Not too common, but it happens. 0 and 9 are right down here, so those are actually the buttons next to the joystick. I find that I just end up using 0 a lot. Power Word Shield is the #1 heal for me as a Disc Priest, obviously, and yet I use 0 the most. Not sure why, just habit probably. Currently on my bar, I am using penance twice. I have a typical penance, which is #1, which I use to heal a raid member. And then my second penance, #2, is for offensive penance. So I do make mouse over macros, obviously, and that is a mouse over macro. So that mouse over macro for penance actually will simply, let me pull it up for you to see, right here. That mouse over macro is simply going to just allow me to attack the target that my mouse over target is attacking through an assist. That's a mouthful, isn't it? So, and then it hops back to my last target, which is typically a tank or a melee. I find myself shielding them a lot, especially when there's bombs and stuff and melee damage. They tend to be gravitating towards them. Other mouse over macros that I have are Solus. So now we're getting into this area over here. And this area over here, what I have set up is hotkeys for my Logitech mouse. So I am using the lovely Logitech G900. It has a grand total of 12 buttons on it, and those buttons are all hotkeyed with the exception of the deadly trap right here in the middle. That is actually my auto run. So I have that set to auto run. Everything else obviously is hotkeyed appropriately, so I can use it. Hey, Life Grip actually helping people. Isn't that a wonderful thing? But same idea with Solus. That is going to be a mouse over macro. Smite is also a mouse over macro. Other than those, I tend to heal a lot by clicking. So pain suppression is not a mouse over macro. I actively click that. That has actually prevented me from putting it on the wrong person multiple times. I could set it to be the focus, but then the other tank usually needs it, etc., etc. Fade, huge important 30-second cooldown, obviously, for a priest. Reducing damage when you have it glyphed. I personally love it. It helps a lot. I highly recommend using it. As far as my UI goes, that's really it in terms of what we can see out of combat. Obviously, I have Ice HUD here. That's more of an aesthetic thing. I like having that information. I don't necessarily use it a whole lot. It's just one extra way that I can see whether or not my mana is low. That's kind of what my UI is designed around. It is presenting some duplicate information so that I am able to definitely see where I'm looking at in terms of mana, health, my target's mana, my target's health, etc. Now, over here, I have grid. Obviously, grid is probably the most important thing here on my layout, and that's mostly because of the fact that that's how I heal. So I don't use click, I don't use voodoo, I use grid. I have it set so that the colors kind of pop. I see a lot of people with the colors inverted so that it's darker, but I just like having that visual cue so that I can see it. As health goes down, as you'll see in the video that I'm going to loop into this, you'll see the health disappearing, which is why I'm healing. There is a mana bar below it. Okay, so I can see mana bars within combat on grid. I find it very helpful as a healer overall to have a better idea of where everyone else's mana is, especially other healers. So that's really important. Now, other things that are in my UI that we don't necessarily see right away is going to be the weak auras. And when it comes to weak auras, what we're looking for is right around here. An image for Solus pops up and it gives an obnoxious sound. And if you've ever watched any of my videos, you will you'll absolutely hear it. That is to remind me to cast Solus. It's highly important for mana regen for me. That's what I'm doing with it. I'm probably going to be doing something similar to it in the near future, incorporating a quick way to see how many stacks of evangelism I have. This way I know if I just need to toss a smite out before I pop Archangel if I'm at 4. As far as other UI pieces, health bars tend to be another one, especially for enemies. Just cleaned up. Just want to keep everything clean.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so I just want to talk about some of the stuff that we're looking at right here. We've watched about 20 seconds of this video, and you can already see that I have my annoying sound and button right there. So I have a sound cue, so auditory sound cue, as well as visual cue, so I can see it depending on what's going on, if there's a lot going on in vent or mumble. Not only do I have the chance of hearing it, but I'm also going to be able to see it. I also have different read warnings right here and countdown timers. They used to be on the right side underneath my health bar area in this blank space over here. I kind of found out that I was missing some of them. So I moved them over here, so they're always going to be around my feet. And that's one thing that I really like to focus on, keeping the area below my feet kind of clear, but at the same time, being able to see what my feet are standing on, because you don't want to stand and fire. It doesn't give you a buff, usually. So that's why all of that is clumped up over there. You'll notice that that's popping. My Archangel is glowing. That's part of Recors.
Beware. 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 Beware.
Now, the last thing I'm going to do as part of this video is just kind of scroll through what add-ons I do actually have loaded. So, the first one, primarily for my Death Knight, Altaholic, highly recommended. If you're not using it, get it. Atlas Loot Enhanced, self-explanatory. Auctioneer, great auction add-on. Bagnon, basically that's just combining all my bags into one so they open all at once. Bartender 4, better in docks because I'm lazy. Big Brother, can't tell you how many times that's told me to just throw out a buff. Even if you're not a raid leader, I highly recommend having it. Broker Garrison, because it's all about the garrisons now, right? Coordinates, otherwise we get lost. DBM, if you're raiding and you don't have a DBM or something like DBM, just stop watching and go download it. Follower location info, awesome add-on, helps you track and find all the followers that you don't have. Forte Exorcist, again, another great one. Kind of does do information overload sometimes. That's what this soul stone is for up in the top right up here, and that tells me who's soul stoned, etc. Grid, self-explanatory, grid mana bars. If you're a healer, trust me, you gotta have it. Ice HUD, nice little thing. Life Bloom Tracker is for my Druid alt. Magic Runes, kind of testing things out with my DK recount because I recently switched. Red prints, I'm paints, right? Paints. Basically, I've bought multiple things by accident, and that's why I have it. Sexy map we talked about. Shadowed unit frames we talked about. Skada, obviously. Thulgar Assist, if you're doing BRF, just download it. It's for Operator Thulgar. It's going to make the trains like cutting butter with a hot knife. It is so nice and easy. Great visual cues, everything like that. At least one person in the raid should have it for calling out. I recommend everyone having it. Tidy Plates, that's the health bar add-on I was talking about. It's not in the video that you're seeing. It just cleans up enemy plates, enemy name plates and health plates. Titan panel, which is the top bar, giving me all the information. Currency, guild, totem timers, because I'm working on a shaman as well. Weak auras 2, gotta have it. And WoW instant messaging, never miss a whisper, is all I'm gonna say. If you're familiar with old-fashioned aim, get it. It works great. And if you've enjoyed, please like the videos, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. I do tend to tweet and post on Facebook before I go live in case you're not checking your email for the email that you get with Twitch. I hope to see you in the chat, do some interaction, answer some questions. Maybe you could give me some pointers. I'm always well open for them. Everyone can always improve, right? And hope to hear from you soon.